Lesson 22, page 29. My name is Michael Tsiapoudos with the Patriarchal Psalter of Isles. Last time we talked about the elements of Ichos. We talked about the martyrias, and previously we talked about the phthores. And now we're going to make it a little bit more concrete, how the martyrias and the phthores help us know exactly in which scale and which Ichos we're chanting in. Remember that this is the martyria of the diatonic D or martyria diatonikou D, and αυτή, this is the martyria of the chromatikou D, the soft chromatic or just chromatic. So when you see this martyria, you chant diatonically, and when you see this martyria, you chant um, chromatically. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. Chromatic V, the, ke, the. Diatonic V, the, ke, the. The, ke, the. The, ke, the. Can you hear the small and the big interval? The reason I'm doing that is because on the second Ichos, on the chromatic scale, from D to Ge, you have a least tone, a small tone. In the diatonic scale, from D to Ge, you have a whole tone. And I don't need to see the scale once I know which martyria I'm in. So the martyria, martyri, or tells you, or it's a witness, I don't know how else to say it, on which scale and consecutively, consequently, in which Ichos you are in. The, ke, the, ke, the. Let's go down. The, ke, the, ga, bu, ba, ni, ba, bu, ga, the. The, ke, the, ga, bu, ba, ni, ba, bu, ga, the. Okay? So one diatonic, one chromatic, and the other one diatonic below it. But what if you want to change the scale, say from chromatic to diatonic in the middle of the melody? And that's where phthorats come into play. If thorat is phthorats, it's a symbol that switches the melody from one scale to another scale. How does that happen? Well, the initial martyria tells you to chant chromatic intervals, but imagine that you wanted a melody that descends chromatically as it is now, but when you go down to ni, start ascend diatonically. You could change the ascending part with a diatonic thora or ni. In other words, this whole thing is chromatic. It's just like this first line. What I'm saying here is that what if you want to descend all the way to here in a chromatic way, but kind of like switch from here to there and go up diatonically? Let's go back to the scales. What if you want to descend from this D all the way down to ni chromatically, and then on this ni switch over to this ni and ascend diatonically? In other words, you want to say the, ke, the, ga, bu, pa, ni. Let's switch to the other side. Ni, pa, bu, ga, di. One more time. The, ke, the, ga, bu, pa, ni, pa, bu, ga, di. One more time. Di ke di ga vu pa ni pa vu ga di. Di ke di ga vu pa ni pa vu ga di di. How did that happen? Well, do you see this thing? This thing is called the φθορά διατονικού νη. It's basically down here. This is the φθορά of διατονικός νη, and that is the φθορά of διατονικός πα. Φθορά διατονικού βου, φθορά διατονικού γα, φθορά διατονικού δι και ζω νη. Every time you see any of these φθορές on their corresponding character, then you switch to the other scale. In this case, I went from this D all the way down to Ni. I went from here all the way down to here, and then I switched from this side to the other side. And then I went up, I ascended. I descended chromatically, I ascended diatonically, as simple as that. What if I wanted to go all the way down from di, ke, di, ga, vu, chromatically, the way it is now, like up to here, di, ke, di, ga, excuse me, vu. What if I wanted to do di, ke, di, ga, vu, and then from vu, go down to ni diatonically? In other words, what if I wanted to switch to diatonic, not here, but a little bit before that? Well, I would put the vu diatonic right here on vu. And that would switch it right here from vu to vu, or from vu to this vu, from chromatic to diatonic. Okay? So every time you see this φθορά of the diatonic scale on the corresponding note, from that point on, you chant diatonically. If it happens to be on ni, from that point on. If it happens to be on the, from that the on, it's all diatonic. You come back to whatever you were when you see that φθορά. In that particular case, we used to be, or we started on ήχος δεύτερος. We switched to diatonic. No one says that I cannot go back to δεύτερος and make a cadence on δεύτερος and finish my piece on δεύτερος, second ήχος. Of course you can do that. So basically, this notation that the three teachers, as we call them, Chrysanthos, Grigorios, and Hormouzios or Hartophylakas, gave us in 1814, excuse me, it's a very flexible and very complete system. You can chant any kind of scale with extreme precision on how many notes, when to chant them, and even how to switch from one scale to the next scale. So there you have it. So you should be very proud of yourselves. You are getting into the actual core of Byzantine music right now. I mean, from this point on, you need to learn a couple of, well, some more scales and some more φθορές and martyrias, but this is basically the underlying theory of Byzantine music. So congratulations. Thank you so much for your patience, and I will see you next time.